Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Purvadikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Purvadikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So we read 13 to 15, but we didn't read 16 because I wanted to save this long purport. We didn't have time. So why don't we start with 13 to 15. This is on page 629. Microphone, what about it? Oh, it's unread. Oh my God.
You suddenly got quieter.
Hare Krishna. All right, top of page 629. Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 16th day of May, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are reading from the chapter 16, the Divine and Demoniac Natures, text number 13 to 15. Okay. All right, we're going to do all the verses, but we're just going to go to the word by words and the first one. Idam. Hello. You see it? Top of page 629.
Sorry, before you get started, can I try?
Okay. Yeah, we'll just do it, but it's too much to do each of those words. Idam. Adya. Maya labdham. Imam prapsye manoratham idam astidam apime bhavishyati punardhanam. Right, so we'll all just chant responsibly the first one, and you can chant that one, and then I'll just do the second two myself and read the translation, since we did this one yesterday. Okay. Idamannamaya labdham imam prapsye manoratham idamasti idamapi me bhavishyati punardhanam idamannamaya labdham imam prapsye manoratham idamasti idamapi me bhavishyati punardhanam idamannamaya labdham imam prapsye manoratham idamasti idamapi me bhavishyati punardhanam. Chris, you want to try it? Okay. Go ahead. Idamannamaya labdham idam prapsye manoratham idamasti idamapi me bhavishyati punardhanam idamannamaya labdham imam prapsye manoratham idamasti idamapi me bhavishyati punardhanam. Okay, I'll just read the other two and then the translation. Aso maya hatak shatru hanishye chaparanapi ishroham hambogi siddhoham balaban sukhi adyo bijanavanasmi konyosti sadasho maya yakshe dasyami modishya ityajnana vimohitaha. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future, more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices, I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Okay, no purport, we'll move on. Aneka chitta vibranta mohajala samavrita Pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti nadakeshu tau. Thus, perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they, the demons, become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. Purport. The demoniac man knows no limit to his desire to acquire money. That is unlimited. He thinks only of how much assessment he has just now and schemes to engage that stock of wealth further and further. For that reason, he does not hesitate to act in any sinful way, and so deals in the black market for illegal gratification. He is enamored by the possessions he has already, such as land, family, house, and bank balance, and he is always planning to improve them. He believes in his own strength, and he does not know that whatever he is gaining is due to his past good deeds. He is given an opportunity to accumulate such things, but he has no conception of past causes. He simply thinks that all his massive wealth is due to his own endeavor. A demoniac person believes in the strength of his personal work, not in the law of karma. According to the law of karma, a man takes his birth in a high family or becomes rich or very well educated or very beautiful because of good work in the past. The demoniac think that all these things are accidental and due to the strength of one's personal ability. They do not sense any arrangement behind all the varieties of people, beauty, and education. Anyone who comes into competition with such a demoniac man is his enemy. There are many demoniac people, and each is enemy to the others. This enmity becomes more and more deep between persons, then between families, then between societies, and at last between nations. Therefore, there is constant strife, war, and enmity all over the world. Each demoniac person thinks that he can live at the sacrifice of all others. Generally, a demoniac person thinks of himself as the supreme God. And a demoniac preacher tells his followers, "Why are you seeking God elsewhere? You are all yourselves God. Whatever you like, you can do. Don't believe in God. Throw away God. God is dead." These are the demoniac's preachings. Although the demoniac person sees others equally rich and influential, or even more so, he thinks that no one is richer than he and that no one is more influential than he. As far as promotion to the higher planetary system is concerned, he does not believe in performing yagyas or sacrifices. Demons think that they will manufacture their own process of yagya and prepare some machine by which they will be able to reach any higher planet. The best example of such a demoniac man was Ravana. He offered a program to the people by which he would prepare a staircase so that anyone could reach the heavenly planets without performing sacrifices, such as are prescribed in the Vedas. Similarly, in the present age, such demoniac men are striving to reach the higher planetary systems by mechanical arrangements. These are examples of bewilderment. The result is that, without their knowledge, they are gliding toward hell. Here the Sanskrit word moha jala is very significant. Jala means net. Like fish caught in a net, they have no way to come out. Om jnana timarandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshurunmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, why do we do things and refrain from other things? This is what life is all about. We're doing something and not doing other things. Well, there's clearly material desire, as it's described here, the demoniac, and we're here in the material world because we wanted to enjoy our own senses, our own desires, independent of Krishna, independent of God. So we're already in a fallen state. And without superior instruction, we're going to be raised and have the influence of others who are aiming in those desires. We may identify them because we're born in the same place, we have similar ethnic language, all of these things, and we'll join together, and together we'll dominate and join. So this is what material life is all about. So there's various impetuses to action. And one is, as I mentioned, different impetus is desire, but there's also others. Another very powerful impetus to action is fear. Fear is very, very powerful. It is said that we share 4 things with the animals. How does it go? Ahara nidra bhayamaintanangsha samanyametat pashabe samana. Dharmo hitesha madigo vishesho dharma nihina pashabe samana. You don't know what it means, but you even like it before you understand what it means. The sound. Okay, there you go. So what this verse is, it's a verse in a book called the Hitopadesh. Even the title of the book is important. It means instructions for the benefit of human beings. Hita means welfare, and Upadesh is instruction. So this verse says, eating, ahara nidra, eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing. We share those with the animals, human beings. Samanyameta pashabisam. Pashabi are animals, and Narana is human beings. But the distinguishing factor in human life is dharma. Dharma hitesham adhiko vishesha. There's a distinguishing. Without dharma, human life is nothing but animal life, polished animal life. So, let's take this apart. Certainly we can agree, I mean, we have to eat, we have to sleep, there's sense gratification. But the fearing is the one I wanted to concentrate on now. Because this is about the most detailed you find in the Bhagavad Gita of what we used to call in regular preaching hellfire and brimstone. Where hey, you got to come to church, you got to do the right thing, otherwise down to that hot place, right? And so many children, you say, okay, I'll come, right? Isn't it? So that's an important impetus for taking up Dharma in some kind of way. But the problem is that it's not enough, because desire can overwhelm that. As long as the immediate danger is over, then the other impetus to action, the desire to enjoy, can take over. So much so that you become very cynical. I don't believe it. I don't believe there's life after death, there's anything. It's just now. Why isn't it a big thing? YOLO. You only live once, isn't it? Isn't it? And if you believe YOLO, then it's FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm only living once. The more you live in the moment, the more animalistic you are. The animals, they don't plan ahead, and all these different things. But they live by instinct. If they're hungry, they go forage for something, and they have the impetus to sex. They'll go find a mate. And fearing, there's always a fight or flight. There's always some arrangement, right? The birds will take off, and the little dogs, they have their teeth and whatever. So there's an arrangement for it, and they don't contemplate the meaning. They can't understand this. But this is describing the real dangers of embracing this demoniac mentality, which is all around us. If you don't do anything and you just kind of live in this world, you'll be influenced by all these demoniac influences. It's all around. You walk down the street and there's this advertisement for this and that and this, and go here. You don't have to walk anywhere, just look at your phone. Really? And you can get involved in so many things. I mean, I read one. It was a few weeks ago. There was a big riot. Was in Chicago, somewhere where there was a whole bunch of young people. Youngsters got together and they rioted in downtown, and they were breaking windows and everything, all organized online. They look at their phone, get on this app. They play. So the influences are very powerful for the degradation of the soul, especially in the Kali Yuga. So Krishna is giving us now instruction, and he's going to wind up the chapter in a few verses with some very cogent instructions. The last 3 verses really give a very nice summary of what we're learning here. But here we began with Krishna imitating he's speaking like a demon. It's unique in the Bhagavad Gita. Quote, so much wealth do I have today. And you just read, isn't that just regular behavior? Just go to Wall Street. That the whole thing is investing here, selling that, buying that, the stock is rising, okay, That's the mentality. And you can see now with communications, the markets are open somewhere in the world all the time. You know, you could spend your entire life online, you know, selling and buying and selling, you know. So that's what's going on. And then, you know, then you have the heads of state who get that way by cheating and exploiting the people. It's a nightmare. You know, there's no strong culture of morality and ethics in the world today that really lasts very long. So anyway, Prabhupada lays it out here, is that the demonic mentality, it's the first thing is to deride the existence of life after death. You don't want to believe in that, because then there may be some payment for what you're doing now. So they generally deride that or don't believe in it. And then, you know, that frees you from the fear of hell, so that you can manipulate and do everything to try to enjoy this short lifetime. And that's the demonic mentality. You remember one of the key verses, asatyam apatishtam te jagadahu anishwaram. It's all coming about by chance, attractive particles, this and that. You know, there's no ultimate truth, asatyam, there's no foundation, and most of all, there's no God in control. Jagadahu anishuram. Rather, Ishwaroham Mahambogi. I am the Ishwara around here. I'm the enjoyer. You know, perfect, powerful, and happy. So it's grand delusion. Now in the Bhagavatam, you get many more details about this hellish. Krishna doesn't really describe, but you can, we've finished. We're in the 6th canto now, but we went through the end of the 5th canto, and there's a sampling of the hells. I always remember the one, because I don't know if you were here. We had the class where it described those who cook animals alive will also be put into pots and cooked after death. And I always remember, I never in my life ate any lobster. I remember I grew up in Long Island, not too far from New York City, and we would go in and visit. You know, we didn't have money thank God that we would go to expensive restaurants, but we would go, you know, walking down Fifth Avenue and everything. And there in these fancy restaurants, they'd have the fish tank in the window with the lobsters, live lobsters, you know, flapping around in there. And the idea is, oh look, you know, very fresh. You know, if you want that one, we'll put him in the pot for you. Thanks a lot. Ensuring that in your next life you'll be in the pot. I mean, isn't there a phrase, what goes around comes around? It's another T-shirt, you know. Not YOLO, not YOLO. What goes around comes around in the next life. We have our own T-shirt. So how to avoid getting sucked into this mentality? The idea is, this is what we don't want. We don't want to be in this me, you know, and how much can I enjoy in this lifetime and exploit others. This is not good. Now, it's not that everybody has this. Some are in different modes. We learn in modes of passion and goodness, and you actually have people who are doing sacrifice, they're giving charity, giving their time to help the poor. So it's not totally demonic at this point. But the ones who are striving for control, who are, you know, the millionaires, 10 million, billion dollars, you know, this is just having that amount of money and not spending it on welfare for people, and it's very sinful. So Krishna will go on a little more describing these demons, and that he is very strict with them. You know, he casts them down, and they have a very dark future and very painful future. And that's one of the impetus for original impetus for taking up spiritual life, because demon or not demon, birth, old age, and disease and death are there. Right? So one of the aspects of knowledge Krishna describes in the chapter 13, text 8 to 12, is janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, dukkha, doshanu, darshanam. A symptom of knowledge is to be always aware of these inevitable sufferings in material life: birth, old age, disease, and death. Now, old age isn't always there. You can get, you can die prematurely, but birth and death, and usually you get old age, which is no picnic, because it's characterized by increasing diseases. And so, the question of a human being: okay, I realize, that's going to happen to me. How can I avoid it happening again? Because the first understanding is that we don't die. We change bodies. The body dies. We're not the body. We have two bodies. We have a gross body, which we call the body, which is definitely going to break down eventually and die. But we have a subtle body, which is really where we live, in the mind, intelligence, and ego. And this body doesn't die. And when it carries the soul to the next body, according to your consciousness. That's the thing. We have freedom to cultivate different kinds of consciousness, different modes of nature, or even transcendental. That's what human life is. Animal life, they work by instinct, and they don't have any karma. It's not that the lion is sinful when he goes and captures that beautiful gazelle and eats the gazelle. There's no sin there. That's just his nature. And then after he dies, he'll move up, and eventually come to a human form of life. This is the life of responsibility because of our superior intelligence. When we misuse it, and we simply put the intelligence in the service of the lower self, the senses and the mind, all misconceptions, then it's a tragic loss of the chance of human life. So we should learn how to mold our consciousness with the help of all the facility that's been given to us by Srila Prabhupada and the books, and Krishna through his instructions, what to do, what not to do in order to cultivate this Krishna consciousness, so that this will be our last embodiment in physical form. We want this to be our last birth. That means go back home, back to Godhead, beyond birth and death. There's a nice little book Prabhupada's preaching. So that's an impetus. Now you can say that's an impetus of fear. That's okay if that fear is well-founded and it moves you in the right direction, because the process of Krishna consciousness will dissipate the fear. After some time, that's not really your impetus anymore, because just being Krishna conscious, you get the feeling of liberation. You're not bound, and so your feeling becomes one of attraction to Krishna and love. That includes liberation. You don't have to worry about it. But you need something to get you going. And we don't really know Krishna, and we can't be. So let's be moved by the seriousness of, let's get out. No more birth. You want to come back here? I mean, this is one of the reasons why people are postponing marriage, and even in marriage, postponing having kids, not deciding to have kids. One is the ridiculous expense, the hundreds of thousands of dollars to raise a kid. And one of the others is there even going to be a world? That's why the young people there's a lot of, depression there. Part of it is because they can see what's going on. Their elders are not taking this whole climate change thing seriously, making it unlivable. Just in this 33 years I've been here in Pacific Beach, 34 now, getting to be 34. There's been, going along, you just expected. It was rhythmic, And then the last few years and this year, climate has been ridiculous. This cold weather into May, all this rain, producing the allergies. I haven't had allergies for 40 years. I've been living on the beach, Miami Beach and Pacific Beach. And it's been, Miami Beach, I was like 100 feet from the water, so the breezes, there's no question of pollen there. Here, I'm a little farther from the water, but it's so dry. You don't get, there was no hay fever or anything, which I suffered from a lot when I lived in the Northeast. I forgot about it. But now the weather's changed. We had all this rain, and I Googled it. Yes, there's a whole lot of tree pollen in here. I was just coughing and sneezing like anything. Luckily, someone bought me some remedy to help ameliorate it. Anyway, it's just part of living in the material world, these vicissitudes and the changes, So we should want to get out of it and go back home, back to Godhead. And by practicing Krishna consciousness, you gradually lose that fear, and you're confident. Okay, this is the way to deal with these things and lead a sinless life, and avoid this covetousness, this greed, and all of these other qualities of the demons that we definitely don't want to have. All right, any questions on these points? Yes, right behind you. Yes, sure.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
So, thank you. So let's say there's a soul that did very good deeds, and then in the next life they reincarnate into a very wealthy person, and so privileged and so on. And then in this life they become demons. So how could they forget, if before it says here they did very good deeds and they may get a better incarnation in terms of wealth, and then...
The thing is, it's very complicated to try to untangle, karma. Yes, if you do good deeds materially, then you'll be born in a materially better situation. But just to be born in Kali Yuga is not a good thing, because there's so many evil influences around. If you're born in Satya Yuga, then you're not going to have all this, and you'll be able, and everyone's a Brahmin there and peaceful, like that. But that doesn't mean that they go back to Godhead, because also it says that the mode of goodness can also be conditioning. You're very attached to living in the mode of goodness, peacefulness, like that. But that's not transcendental. So believe it or not, I think we dealt with this in the morning, how this Kali Yuga is worshipped by the demigods and everything, because Lord Chaitanya appeared here. Because Krishna appeared here in this age as Lord Chaitanya, giving out freely the highest gift, which includes liberation, and that is prema, pure love for Krishna, by chanting the holy name. It's so simple. There's no restrictions. Anyone, anytime, any place can chant that mantra. You can't chant the Vedas in the bathroom, but you can chant Hare Krishna in the bathroom. We're not even eligible to chant the Vedas, The Sudras like me, even women, no, forget it. But Lord Chaitanya is so liberal. Krishna in the form of Lord Chaitanya is that he knows these Kali Yugites, you roll your eyes. What qualities do they have? They don't live very long, they're misguided, they're always disturbed. But if they can just come and chant, get attracted to kirtan and hear, they can be saved. There's one verse, beautiful verse by Devahuti, yes, the mother of Kapila Dev. She's praising her son, who's an incarnation of Krishna. She says, Aho bata shapachoto gariyan yadjigvagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhavu sasnaraya brahmanuchu nama gunantiyete. How wonderful it is, aho. But how wonderful. Shapachoto, even the dog eaters are considered, I don't know why, but even lower than cow eaters. Shapachoto, how glorious are they, even the dog eaters, if your name is somehow dancing on their tongue. Somehow they're chanting your name. Yajjig Vagre, on the tip of the Vartate Nama Tubhyam, your name, Kapila Dev, who's Krishna. They must have in previous lives performed all kinds of sacrifices, studied the Vedas, visited all the holy places, and done everything else. In other words, is it so hard? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. It's easy, it's simple, But it's not easy to come by because so many people have misconceptions about it or poo-poo it or they don't understand. But if you just read even a little bit of Prabhupada's books and you stay with the devotees and you can see what a valuable practice it is, how purifying and auspicious it is. So we have this great opportunity, and then everything can change from there. Otherwise, just to get born in a wealthy family, especially today, that may be a ticket to demonic life.
And an extra comment. So maybe, could it be that maybe a wealthy incarnation could be like my extra challenge that Krishna wants to give it? So say you were poor, you behave good, then I want to give you riches to see what you do in that case. Could it be? Or it's
Anything
pushing.
is possible.
Yeah.
It's hard to untangle the karmic web.
Yeah.
You know, if you have some, maybe you gave a little donation to a devotee on the street, even unknowingly. You know, and you took the book. You said, I don't know. You know, if I'm going to really read this, I'll give it to a friend, you know. So, but you did some service. Then that's in your bank account. And then the next life, you know, you'll do step number 2, you know. That's how we all got here, I think. Anyway, let's go on. Text 17. Is that right, or text 16? We did 16. Oh, 17. Atma sambhavatak stabdha Dhanamana madanvitaha yajante nama yagyaiste dambena vidipurvakam. Okay. Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only without following any rules or regulations. Purport. Thinking themselves all in all, not caring for any authority or scripture, the demoniacs sometimes perform so-called religious or sacrificial rites. Anyone else know how to turn this heater off? You know.
No, I don't know.
Oh. Huh? Better try first. If she fails, you can. She has a shorter walk.
Off should be easier than on, right?
It should be. Or at least, if not, we'll just open the door. Maybe that's it.
So off or just down? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, you can figure it out. She's a computer expert. There you go. It should go up in a minute. Anyway, all right. Thinking themselves all, purport. Thinking themselves all in all, not caring for any authority or scripture, the demoniacs sometimes perform so-called religious or sacrificial rites. And since they do not believe in authority, they are very impudent. This is due to illusion caused by accumulating some wealth and false prestige. Sometimes such demons take up the role of a preacher, mislead the people, and become known as religious reformers or as incarnations of God. They make a show of performing sacrifices, or they worship the demigods, or manufacture their own god. Common men advertise them as God and worship them, and by the foolish they are considered advanced in the principles of religion or in the principles of spiritual knowledge. They take the dress of the renounced order of life and engage in all nonsense in that dress. Actually, there are so many restrictions for one who has renounced this world. The demons, however, do not care for such restrictions. They think that whatever path one can create is one's own path. There is no such thing as a standard path one has to follow. The word avidipurvakam, meaning disregard for the rules and regulations, is especially stressed here. These things are always due to ignorance and illusion. And there we go again. This word damba appears. Dambena, out of pride. Now, but in the description, or in the translation, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only. As I mentioned, this is pretense. It's pretense. That's the big thing. And that's this word dhamma comes up again and again. In fact, it's one of the first words used earlier in the chapter. The whole thing is a big show. In other words, as I mentioned, I'm not going to tell the story again, but Kamsa, who was a big demon in the 10th canto, what finally stopped him from chopping the head of his sister off so that she wouldn't give birth to the 8th son was that it'll be a bad look. So, and she's not the one. So, and Vasudeva promised to give him the children, whatever, he would deliver them. And indeed, he killed the first 6. There's a backstory to that. They were his own sons in a previous life. But anyway, so it's all calculation. How can I get the best press out of it? Because what people believe about you is all important. So anyway, this is the Dhamma, and it's all avidipurvakam. Whatever they do, it's without following the rules and regulations. It's all self-made. So that's the nature here. In name only, they perform in name only. There's no heart to it. Now this brings to mind one verse which is very important for us, and this is a verse by Queen Kunti. And this is like not as severe as the demons, but it shows how attachment to the material can be a serious impediment in spiritual life. She says there in her prayers to Krishna before he goes back to Dwarka after the battle is won, Battle of Kurukshetra. Janmaishwarya Shuta Shibir Edamana Madak Puman Naibarhatta Bidhatam Vai Tvama Kinchana Gochanam. My dear Lord, you are the property of the propertyless, meaning those who don't claim anything as theirs in this world, they can claim to be real servants of you, because otherwise you're competing with Krishna. It's all his energy, but you want to use it for your own reasons. So in this verse she says, my dear Lord, you're easily accessible. And the implication there by the rest of the verse is by chanting the holy name, by chanting your name. But those who are progressively intoxicated, Edamana Madak Puman, and they're therefore bewildered, by these four basic opulences, good birth, which is basically, no one knows that these days, but that's a big thing, aristocratic birth, wealth, high education, and bodily beauty. They can also chant, but they can't chant with deep feeling. They're too much involved in these material things. They can chant sometimes, but it's not from the bottom of the heart. Because you are the property of the propertyless, meaning you're the property of those who don't claim anything as their own property. You can be very wealthy like our friend Ambarish Das, who's coming here in a couple of weeks, on June 4th. Don't miss it. It's a Sunday. He's going to come with two other representatives of the TOVP in Mayapur, bringing Lord Nrsingadev's helmet from that incredible Nrsingadev deity they have in Mayapur, and everyone will be able to get blessed by that. But he's an heir to the Ford company. He's one of the heirs, $100 million or whatever it was. But he spent 13 of a million building Prabhupada's Samadhi tomb in Mayapur, and he contributed, 25-50 million to the TOVP. The temple of the Vedic Planetarium, a magnificent temple that's being built in Mayapur now. And because he did that, he has authority, and he talks to groups of wealthy businessmen in India, and he speaks with, listen, I gave so much, and you should also give generously. He's a very potent preacher. I can't tell him to do that. Anyway. So it doesn't mean that you don't have any money. It means that you realize it belongs to Krishna and should be used in his service. And as far as possible, you use your assets that way. So that's an important verse for us, is that anyone can chant, and in the purport Prabhupada talks about it. Everyone could chant, but there is a quality to that chanting. And if you're too much attached to the material, you can't chant from the heart. And so you may chant, which is all auspicious, but you're going to be blocked. So that's why simple living, high thinking is the theme. Live as simply as possible. Don't covet material things. And whatever you do get, you use in Christian service. That's the idea. Okay. Let's see, we have time for one more, and then I'll give you a couple of poems. All right, is it 18? I think we're on 18, right? Yes. Ahankaram balam darpam. Kamam krodham cha sangshritaha. Mam atma pada deheshu. Pradvishanto bisuyakaha. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. He said, Prabhupada translates the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna says, Mom. They become envious of me. Purport. A demoniac person, being always against God's supremacy, does not like to believe in the scriptures. He is envious of both the scriptures and the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is caused by his so-called prestige and his accumulation of wealth and strength. He does not know that the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self as well as of others. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. He does not care for the supreme control of the personality of Godhead, because he has no knowledge. Being envious of the scriptures and the supreme personality of Godhead, he puts forward false arguments against the existence of God and denies the scriptural authority. He thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. He thinks that since no one can equal him in strength, power, or wealth, he can act in any way and no one can stop him. If he has an enemy who might check the advancement of his sensual activities, he makes plans to cut him down by his own power. So this is quite a meditation on the demons. And in that regard, I'll give you one poem. It's based on a verse, very famous verse, by Lord Rishabhdev, the first verse of his teachings to his sons. Some of you may know this verse, Nayam Deho Deyabhaja Niloke. So I kind of tweaked it a little bit in the general audience. So it goes like this. Don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for hoggish happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. So this is the choice we have. Flickering pleasures of material happiness, which bury us further and further in birth and death and a lot of suffering, or the austerities of Krishna consciousness as practiced in this yuga, which are pretty minimal compared to, previous ages or other forms of yoga that you may read about. And as Rishabhdev says in the original verse, Tapo divyam putra kayena sattvam, O sons, he's speaking to his sons, and also other great sages who arrived, because he's about to take sannyas, leave the kingdom. Tapo divyam, as opposed to working hard for hoggish happiness, undertake divine austerities. Prabhupada always says austerities and penances. It means that you have to be repentant, But the main thing, austerities, as prescribed, dear sons. What's the advantage? Tapodiv putraka yena, by those austerities, sattvam shuddhyed. You'll be purifying your existence. Your mind, your body, your senses, everything. We become purified of the anartas, of these qualities which adhere in the heart, to one degree or another, the demonic quality. So, okay, what's the advantage of that? Of becoming purified. Tapo yena sattvam shuddhyed yasmad, from that purification, brahmasaukyam tvanantam. You will be able to be qualified more and more to enjoy Brahman happiness, brahmasaukyam, which does not end, it increases more and more. We don't have an experience of that in material life. Every pleasure, every happiness has a beginning and an end. And therefore, Krishna says, I'm not going to quote the whole verse, my favorite verse, the wise don't take their pleasure there. What is that? I have to quote it. I can't resist. Yehi sang sparjija boga dukayonaya evade. Adyandavanta kontayanate shuramate buddha. Very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which is translated as follows. Hopefully I can get this one through the judges. The pleasures that are due to the contact of the senses with the sense objects are the very sources of misery. They have a beginning and an end, and therefore the wise do not take their pleasure there. Well, what else can we enjoy? And then that's in the previous verse. Bhayasparshesu asaktatma vindityatmana yatsukam sabbrahma yoga yuktatma sukam akshayam ashnute. Bhayasparshesu means the external touch of the senses with their sense objects, which can be pleasurable or painful. But the pleasures, those pleasures, vindityatmana yatsukam, they don't take their pleasure there. Then how do they enjoy? Sabbrahma yoga yuktatma, by contacting Brahman, the supreme Brahman, that's Krishna. Sabbrahma yoga yuktatma, through the process of yoga, the soul is connected to Krishna, and the result is, progressively, sukham akshayam ashnate. You learn to taste unbreakable happiness. It's real. It's worth trying for. Even if you don't come to that state in this life, you can continue it in the next life. And in the purport, Prabhupada quotes this beautiful verse, and then we'll end. He says, Anante Ramante Yogino Anante Satyananda Chiratmani iti Rama Padenasu Param Brahma Vidiyate. The yogis, bhakti yogis, they learned to enjoy unending happiness. Ramante Yogino Anante Satyananda, real happiness, real bliss. Chidatmani, which is spiritual. Thus, the Supreme Absolute Truth is known as Rama. Rama means the reservoir of unlimited pleasure. It's the name for Krishna. And then I'll end this one more. He says, Rama Rameti Rameti Rame Ramo Manohrama. Rame Ramona. Oh yeah. Sahasranama bis Tulyam Rama Nama Varanane. This is Shiva speaking to his wife. Varanana means, oh, beautiful faced one. It's the name for his wife, Varanana. It says, I chant the name Rama, Rama, Rama. Rama, Rameti, Rameti. In this way, I'm enjoying chanting the name Rama, Rama, which is Manorama, and so enchanting for the mind. One of these names is equal to 1,000 names of Vishnu, it says, and 3 Ramas equal 1 Krishna. You heard that before. In this way, Rama Nama Varanana, I enjoy chanting the name of oh beautiful faced wife, Rama, 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 right. So it's a nice upbeat thought to end this. And we will begin tomorrow in verse 19, right? Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol. Now we'll have a nice kirtan to see the beautiful forms of the Lord.